Hi everyone, it's Deb from Project Life Deb's Way again. As soon as I saw this paper line from 13 Arts, I knew the tonings and that would go with a set of photographs that I wanted to add to my album. The layout went together very quickly because I knew what I wanted it for. I did use this time the ephemera pack, which will give you a clue to what the tonings are with this paper line. It is absolutely glorious. It's got lots of blues and greens and etc. But it does have some really punchy dark blues and etc. And it does have an absolutely amazing ephemera sheet that comes with it, so you've got plenty of cut aparts and things to use for this. I did use 2.5 sheets of white cardstock, and I added some paler green just to add that backing colour that you sometimes need. And this layout does have a flat page, so I'll take you through that process as well. And as normal, I will have the cutting cheat sheet on my webpage and my Facebook group as well, so that you can actually see where I've cut the bits of paper and etc. out of my cards, and it just makes it easier when you're going through that you don't cut where you need it for another piece of that layout. So please don't forget to subscribe and like my channel, and leave any comments if you want to, if you've got any questions or anything else that you need to ask. The next little section, I will show you an in-depth look of what I've actually used for the layout, and then we'll make our cards from start to finish. So I hope you enjoy the process and join me, and bye for now. We'll make some cards. Hi, we'll start by making our card number 1, and please do remember I do have a cutting cheat sheet which I will give in the description box, where you can actually get that to print it off, because it will help you running through these cards as we go. I will give you the sizes as we go, but the cheat sheet is a great way of having a look where you need to cut your cards and etc. The first card that we will be doing has a white 6x4 base card, and I'll call this my base card. Now I have cut from the blue script sheet a 5 3/4 by 3 3/4 sheet, and you need to have some brown distress inks. I like the ground espresso because it's a nice true brown. So when you go round, just rub a little bit of that ink around the edges, and what that does, it actually gets rid of that white edge, so you don't need to do any of your cardstock. It's just your papers and your flowers and things. So I've already pre-taped, and don't forget, you don't need to put mounds and mounds of tape on because they are in a plastic folder. Now this card has a little border all the way around, so you want to center that card in the center and pop it down. Now the next thing you need to do is to get some green cardstock, and you'll be cutting that one at 4 by 5.5, and then you need to cut it into 2, so that you have 2 inches by 5.5, and put the other piece to one side because that will be used on card number 4. So once again, I have just taped my tape. Now this is going to go on the right hand side, just here, leaving that tiny little border all the way round. And then from the blue paper that has the slight swirls on it. I have cut that by 1 3/4 by 5 1/4 so that it just has a little border around, and that will be centered in the middle of the green cardstock. Now the next job that we have to do, we have cut another green basil, and that green basil is 4 1/4 by 3 1/4, so that you can have your true 3x4 photo mat on there and just give you that little border. So the easiest thing I find to do is to actually put your white photo mat in the center of your green, and then we are going to pop our photograph up into the top here. So I want that just at the top with a tiny little border all the way down. So now it's time to add our ephemera. Now the flowers that I have cut here is off of this gorgeous sheet. Sorry about the glare there. And you will find that that is sitting just here, that you need to cut that flower out, and then you just need to find yourself a nice blue flower that's a single one. And once again, just go around, not too hard, just really gentle, and it takes those little edges off. Now what I want to do here is this one will be laying flat. Make sure you don't have any tape onto your photo mat, otherwise you won't be able to slip your photographs in. Now I think as I'm doing this, I might put my photographs in to give you an idea of what this layout actually looks like. So I'll just quickly find my photograph. So there goes your photograph in your little photo mat there. So you just trim your photograph down so that it would actually fit with a little white edge all the way around. So we'll pop that down. Now put a bit of foam tape on the blue flower here, and that's going to go just here. And I've done a few little white leaves because I definitely thought that this needed a little bit of, not green, but a little bit of extra colour. So I am going to just trim this one off a little bit so I can get it underneath. And just pop that underneath, and it just gives a bit more texture to the layout. And with those, I'm just going to get a little bit of glue and just pop a little bit of glue on them, and very quickly that card has come together. Now this is card number 2, and all I have done there is, once again, I have cut my 6x4, which is my base card, and from the blue sheet that has the swirls and etc., and I've used the green side and I've distressed the edges. Now I need to attach this to my base card and just center it up. And this card that's been cut is 5 3/4 by 3 3/4, so that you have, once again, that 1/8 of an inch border all the way around, and as you can tell, the little distressed edges just makes that card come up a bit. Now we also need to cut from our white card again. We need a 3x4, which of course is your photo mat, and you need to attach this to the card 1/4 of an inch roughly from the bottom and center it. And once again, I always try to keep my borders the same as it goes. Now the ephemera that I have used has come from the gorgeous ephemera pack, and it's this flower here. So you need to go to your pack and find the flower for that. Now what I've done, I've just cut some of the white off of here because I wanted it to fit on here so that my photograph could slide underneath, and then I will be putting my document there. I just stamped a stamp with that, and I just backed it with a little bit of white, and I've put that onto foam tape. So what we need to do now is just put some tape on this. Now I'm going to put the tape, but not on the bottom bit where it attaches to the photograph, otherwise you won't be able to slide your photograph in. So I'm just going to place that in like so, and as you can tell, I can get the photograph up underneath. If you wanted a little bit more room, you could actually cut these 2 flowers out here to make that fit. Then all you need to do is put your little word like that, and that's a very, very simple little card finished. This is card 3. Now there's a bit of cutting directions here on the paper. Now this is the sheet that you will be cutting your base card from, and it's called Sweet Dreams, page number 7. And what you need to do is you need to cut a strip 3 inches from the bottom, and then you need to cut your card from here. So you'll have 2 pieces of paper, so then you will cut this one at 3 and at 9, and then this strip in the middle you will then cut your card from this piece, so that you will be using this piece that is in the center of this card. It's quite important that you cut that because all the rest of the cards use different bits. So I've edged that card, which is your 6x4, and you do it with the green side up. And then from page number 6, which is called Nightfall, you need to cut this little piece here, which is 5 3/4 by 3 3/4, and I've distressed the edges again, and we will just put some tape onto that card. I tend to use 2 sheet pieces like that on the biggest part of the card, and I tend to find that is enough to keep your papers all in place, because they are in plastic folders. So we are going to attach that into the center like that. Now you need to go to your green cardstock, and you will cut a 3.5 by 4.5 as a mat for your photo mat, and your photo mat from the white card will be a 3x4. So you can attach your white photo mat into the center, so you have that tiny little border all the way around. Now this card is going to go up at the top with an even border all the way around. So now I have 6 inches worth of ribbon so that I can actually take my tape off. For the speed of the video, I've actually put the tape on my ribbon, but you are in actual fact better off putting your tape onto your card and then sticking it down. Pull that quite tight, and right in the middle, roughly about ½ an inch up from the bottom, and then turn your card over and wrap it quite tightly, because otherwise you won't get it into your plastic folders, and that will secure your ribbon into place. Now I've got a little sentiment here. Now you could, if you wanted to, put that on foam tape, but I'm going to keep mine flat, and I have my photograph which will go onto my photo mat like so. So I'm just going to put some tape onto that to secure that down. Now I'm just going to have a look and see what they look like. Yeah, I think that does look okay. So we'll pop 2 little beads on like that, just to finish it off. We start on card number 4, and once again for the base card I have cut that from Midnight in the Garden, which is page number 4, and I've done a 6 by 4 there. Now the next card that I have cut is from sheet number 7, which is called Sweet Dream, and that was the one that we have cut that center, and this piece here I think either came from this side or this side of that cutting sheet, and I've distressed around the edges. Now this 5 3/4 and 3 3/4, you'll get used to these measurements because I use them an awful lot. Making sure my print is running the right way, you will see once again it gives me that little 1/8 of an inch border in my card. Now then I cut from the green cardstock that we actually cut this one in card 1 and we put it to one side, so I've just grabbed that because it's exactly the right size. So we are going to take this one 1/4 of an inch from the left hand side. Once again, that will give you your 1/8 of an inch border carrying through, because that just makes it more pleasing to the eye. And the last piece that we have done, which I'm going to put my edging on just very lightly, you don't want it too heavy, and I've got my tape for that. And this sheet came from page 1, Peaceful Morning, and that size is 2 inches by 5 1/4, and it will just fit into that green cardstock card that you cut like that. So that is sitting there. Now this is what I class as one of my eye candy cards, so it doesn't have any photographs on at all. Now I have cut I've taken all of these from the ephemera pack. I've included 3 of my own printed leaves. This one here I actually cut from the cut apart sheet, and it is that one there in the corner, to give you a clue which one to cut. And then what you can do is just pop these flowers down. I'm going to wrap the ribbon around the top there to give you an idea, and then put my flowers down the bottom. So what I normally do is I'm going to put the big one in first and just attach that with some tape, and then I will work the rest of my florals around that floral. I find that's the easiest way of dealing with these. And don't put your tape right up, because you might be wedging things underneath. Now I think I'm going to put that just slightly off center, because I want this one on foam tape with my leaves. So I'll just quickly if I can know where my leaves are roughly where they're going, I can actually get my glue and start positioning my florals where I think they need to go. I'm going to just snip that off a bit because it's a bit too long and it's not going underneath. And then this one I'm going to snip off as well. Okay, now this one here, we'll get this right in a minute. This one here I want on a bit of foam tape. To give it a little bit of raised texture. So now we can put our ribbon on, and as I was saying, the easiest way of doing that is to pop it where you want your ribbon, take the tape off, see if you can get it off, and then lay your ribbon on the top and pick your whole card up and then tightly wrap it to the back. Now I'm putting a little sentiment in, and because it's got a wire is bringing it down, I'm not going to back it in white, otherwise you lose your ribbon. So I'm just going to put a little bit of tape on my sentiment, which I just stamped onto my green cardstock on the smooth side, because it had a texture on one side and not the other. I'm going to center that right in the middle, and as I did on the other, I'm just going to put my two little pearls. And there we have our beautiful eye candy card. This one's a really easy one. These are our little small 3x4 cards that you do get in your project life, and these are the picture photo mats that I've done. So we've got card 5A and card 10C, which normally I always duplicate on one side to the other side so that they match on the two-sided layout. Now I've cut a 3x4 card from page 4, which is called Midnight in the Garden, which was a beautiful navy blue. So as you know, one card will be landscape and one card will be portrait. So all you have to do is then go and cut from your white card a 2 3/4 by 3 3/4, which will give you that really nice border for your photograph, 1/8 of an inch, and then you need to just pop one photograph landscape, and then you do your second card, where your photograph will be a portrait, and then you would just attach whatever photographs you're going to use. So this is onto card 10A and card 5C. Once again, because they're photo mats, I've matched one side to the other side so you can make two. So when you're cutting this, cut two. So you need from paper number 4, which is called the Midnight Grey, which is the plain navy. I've cut 2 3x4s. Then I went and cut from sheet 1, which is called Peaceful Morning, and it's the navy blue with the swirls, but I'm going to use the green side for that. And the cutting dimensions of that is 2 7/8 by 3 7/8. Now the reason why is I want a really tiny border with that, because I'm putting the 3 colours. And then I went and cut 2 of the white cardstock at 2 3/4 by 3 3/4, and then all you have to do is to stretch the edges on the green and center that. Then you'll get your white and you will center that. And then your photograph will go in to that spot. So you just repeat for the next card. Just makes it easier if you make these both at the same time. And then pop your white photo mat. And then you put your photograph in, and of course you will have one landscape and then you will have one portrait photo. Now we're on to our small non-photo card on our 3x4s, and I did cut a true 3x4 from page number 7 called Sweet Dream, which was the darker blue from the bottom. And I've distressed around the edges, and then I went and cut my white card at 3 3/4 by 2 3/4, and that will be centered on top of this card. Then I went and cut from sheet number 5, which is called So Blue, which is the one that has all the flowers with some writing. And I've distressed around the edges with that, and that will be centered into the middle of that. Now then we will just, depending on where your flowers are, pop this so there's some of the flowers showing underneath, and I've got some leaves. So I think what I might do is actually put this onto some foam dots or foam tape, just to give a bit of dimension. So we'll pop those onto the card, just sort of, and I've distressed around this one too because it came from the cut apart sheet. And on the cut apart sheet is that one there. So we'll just swivel that round until you're happy where it is. Pop it down. Now I've got 3 leaves there, so I want them sort of tucked in, one there so it doesn't hide those flowers, and I'll pop one underneath here, and I'm going to glue them flat. Very quickly that has come together because I've been with this particular layout, the actual cut papers and layered papers are doing all the hard work for you. So we'll now get on to our next card. This is the last of our 3x4 cards. Now this is a true 3x4 card, and I've cut that from Peaceful Morning sheet, which is the blue swirl, and I've just distressed around the edges there, and then I went to sheet number 6, which is called Nightfall, and it has the flowers down the bottom with some print, and I just wanted something across the middle of my card. Now that is a 2x4 inch cut, and what I'm going to do with this, I'm just going to put this straight across the middle of the card to give me a bit of a colour block. Now I've just printed up a little sentiment, and what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to have to reprint that because I've got some brown ink on that, so I won't actually stick that down. I will actually print myself up another one. But what I've done is I've just got my green cardstock, I've popped it onto my cardstock, and I've actually cut around the edges of this to make, so you would stick that down and then just cut round. And then I've gone and got some of more of that navy blue card, and I've actually just attached that down to the card, and I've cut round to give myself the 3 little fine borders. That's the easiest way, and that way whatever sentiment you put in there, you'll get it to fit perfectly. So you just do that, stick it down and cut around, and then do exactly the same for that one. Just cut round and get your light borders, and then attach all 3 one on top of the other. So I will stick my green card down and I will re-stamp my sentiment so I don't have that blotch in there. Now this card here is, you need your tape on the back, now you're going to pop that in to the right hand corner with 1/8 of an inch border, and then of course you would have your sentiment. So whatever sentiment is how big that square will be. Now the flower here has come from this sheet, and it's that flower there that I've actually fussy cut out, and that is just going to pop here with a bit of foam tape, and then I will pop my leaves in. So what I'm going to do is I'll glue my leaves first, then I will get my foam dots pop those on to give me a bit of depth, and pop that onto my card. And we have fully completed one side of our layout on the right hand side. And we will now go on to doing our left hand 12 by 12 layout. Now we're on to our left hand side of our layout, and this particular card is going to be a flap card. So it is a fairly simple card, but there is a lot of cutting of different parts of this. So I've cut my base card, my 6 by 4 card, from sheet number 1 called Peaceful Morning, which of course is the navy blue swirl. So that is my actual base card, and it does have the greeny coloured back, which I'm going to use with a photo mat for when I do my flap. So onto this card I then cut from Sweet Dream, I cut a 5 3/4 by 4 3/4, which of course is going to lay right in the middle of that card with 1/8 of an inch border. Now you need to really take this card down well, because it is not protected by the plastic system. So you need to put a fair amount of tape to make sure right near the edges to keep this card in position, because it will get a lot of handling. So I have actually put the tape all the way around. And then that will be centered in the middle. And then from my white card I cut a white photo mat of 4 1/4 and 3 1/4, so it can hold a true 3 by 4 photograph, just like that. So we are going to attach that once again, a good amount of tape on this to make sure it is attached thoroughly. So we'll fasten that down. And the photograph with that, you want to just put it so you've got the 1/8 of an inch, so 1/4 of an inch in from the right hand side. Then I had a stamp that was all one thing, and it says simple memories make great moments. Because I'm doing a flap, I don't want to raise them, because otherwise what will happen is making your card too thick. So we will just keep this nice and flat, and then just pop your wording onto the side of your card. Now, if you've got no photograph, you will need to move some of that tape across so that when you put your photograph in, you can slide it underneath. Then I would actually attach a tiny bit of glue underneath that once your photograph's in place. And then your photograph will slide underneath, and then you can put a little bit of glue under those too. So there's our front card ready to put our flap mechanism in. So this is the flap, and because that's got the green at the back, you don't want to have the blue, so you virtually need the green colour underneath. So what we will do is we will attach our sticky here onto the back. We'll take this one off and then stick the next one. Just snip that off. Like so. Now we'll take that tape off. Now when you're sticking these, you must leave, when you're putting your tape on, leave a little border, because this card needs to come down just a fraction. Now the reason that is because when that sits in your plastic folder with the top opening, you can slide the other card straight in and it will hook over the plastic folder. And the reason why I wanted the green here, I have actually cut a 5 3/4 by 4 3/4 piece of card. For the photo mat. And this is a really nifty way of actually being able to add more photographs if you've got too many photographs and not enough spots to put them in. This will give you a good 2 extra photographs. Like so. And then that gives you your fantastic photograph, which I'm just going to trim down my photograph to actually fit that spot. Now on the other side, this needs to go to the back like that, and you need to leave that little bit of a top piece so that can hang over the top of your open pocket of your pocket page. So what we need to do is put a nice wide tape so that it's really well attached, so it doesn't fall to bits. Or if you don't have photographs, you could actually do some of your journaling on these cards. And there is a very simple, see, and your true 6x4 can fit in there. And then we have the other one that will fit in there, which I will cut slightly down to fit with the photograph at the front, which I've just ruined because I've actually stuck tape, so I'm going to have to redo that photograph. So that will go onto there. It just so shows that anything can happen when you're making videos. So we'll get on with our 7th card now. Now this is what I class as our eye candy card because it doesn't have a photograph. So I've got my 6x4, which I've cut from my white card, and then I have gone into sheet number 2 called Blue Metal, and it has beautiful blue roses and everything else. So I cut my 5 3/4 by 3 3/4 from that, and I've distressed around the edges again, and that will be centered on your card, so you've got that 1/8 of an inch border all around. And then I went to my green cardstock and I cut a 3 1/4 by 4 1/4 card, and this is going to be attached 1/2 an inch from the left hand side. So once again you can actually see that you are getting your borders again. And then from sheet number 2, which is Blue Meadow again with the flowers, but I just made sure that it didn't have any writing or anything else, and the size of this was a 3x4, and that is centered on top of the green card like that. Then what I wanted was a little square like that, so I actually went to paper number 6, which was the blue print, the navy blue card, and then I decided to put just a little bit of the print paper in. So that paper there is 2.5 by about 1.5. So if it was me, I would actually cut this card out first and then just go for my navy paper, and I would just actually stick it down and then cut the border all around. So I'm going to attach that now, and that will go 1/8 inch and then this one gets centered in that spot. I also did some stamping and I enjoy the little things, so once again I've just backed it with white cardstock, and that will go into the middle. So now the ephemera, this came from the ephemera pack, so I'm just going to take my dots off and attach that. I've put foam dots on there because I wanted a little bit of dimension. So I'm going to just pop that down, and I have introduced a couple of leaves once again, so I'll just fiddle around with these and pop them in, and I will glue that with my glue. And I'm going to pop this flat and just stick that sort of into the middle. And there virtually is like our title card. So there is card number 7 complete. We're on to card 8, and after the last card you'll find this one quite easy. So from my white card I cut a 6x4, which will make my base card, and then from sheet number 2, which is called Blue Meadow, which once again is the one with all the lovely roses. Now I cut this at 5 3/4 by 3 3/4. And that is going to be just centered on the 6x4 card. And I've distressed around the edges of this card as normal. And then from the navy blue sheet, which is sheet number 4, called Midnight in the Garden, I cut a 2 by 3.5 piece of card. And that is going to be 1/4 inch from this right hand, from the left hand side. I then went and cut from my green cardstock. I cut this at 4.5 by 3.5, and I then cut from my white card 4 1/4 by 3 3.25 to make my photo mat. So that will be popping in the center of that green card. And I wanted the photograph off on the right hand side, so I'm popping that roughly about 1/2 inch from the side and attaching that down. The ephemera that I cut, that has come from the floral sheet, and I'm not going to raise that at all. I'm just going to put a little bit of tape in the middle because I don't want it onto my photograph. So I'm going to attach that to the left hand side, and then I've got a couple of leaves I'm just going to glue into place. And then I cut an extra little white flower from the cut apart, and I want to put a foam dot on that to give a bit of dimension. And as you can tell, here's my photograph, and it will just slide underneath, and you can attach your photograph like that. This is our last of our 6x4 cards for our layout. Now I've cut my base card from page number 6, night 4, which is the navy blue with the print, and then I went and I cut from sheet number 2 Blue Meadow, which is the one with all the blue flowers, and just made sure I had a print. And this one here is 2 3/4 by 3 1/2. And this, I've distressed the edges, and you need to attach it to the base 1/8 of an inch from the left hand side, so that you have that nice border running all the way around. Then I went to my green card and I cut a 4 1/4 by 3 1/4 card, and that needs to be attached 1/4 of an inch from the right hand side, centering it into the middle of your card. And this is the mat for the photo mat, so we just pop that down nice and center. Now the white cardstock, I cut a 4 by 3 photo mat, which is placed in the center of the green card. Now you can go to your paper pack and just cut a little grouping of flowers. You will also need this little flower from the cut apart sheet with a foam dot on it, because that one is going to be raised, and a couple of leaves. I also do have a ribbon, so I'm going to lift this up, and it isn't going to be centered because I need this to be raised up. So I'm just going to leave a little tiny border at the top, so that's virtually 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch in, and then the ribbon will go along the bottom. So once again, I will just put my tape down, take that off, put my ribbon where I want it, attach it nice and flat. That way you get your ribbon lovely and flat, and then you can just wrap that round the back. And if you haven't got any tape, because mine's decided to come off, just put some tape underneath so that it gets really firmly secured, because if you don't, when you go to put it in your plastic folder, all your ribbons will curl up. Now my ephemera piece, I just want tucked in on the left hand side, and I've got a couple of leaves here to go under this flower. So I'm going to attach that down. I'm going to put a little bit of glue because that's got a square bottom. I'm just going to tuck that in. Just find yourself a nice lot of flowers that you particularly like, making sure that you don't attach these two pieces, otherwise you will have your photograph catching. So I've got my photograph that I've got for there. I have got Escape the Ordinary piece. So I'm just going to pop that in. Pop that in the middle with tape. Now this has got that lovely foam dot, so I'm just going to pop that over here on top of the tape and glue my leaves and there we have our last of our 6x4 cards. Now, because if you remember rightly, we have already done, when we were doing the other side, our 2 photo mats. We've only got 2 more cards to do to finish our full double-sided layout. So what I have done, I've cut from my white card a 3x4, and then I have actually cut from sheet number 7, which is Sweet Dream. I have cut a 3 3/4 by 2 3/4 and distressed the edges, and then that will be attached to the base card, and that will give you that little 1/8 of an inch border all the way around. Now, from the ephemera pack, I got some of the flowers here. I've got 3 extra leaves which I'm going to put in, and I've done a stamp for happiness, which I am going to just pop onto some white backing card. The easiest way of doing this is to actually stick this down onto some white cardstock and then just trim around it with scissors, and that way you'll get the exact what you need. I also do have some ribbon once again, and it needs to be about 1/2 an inch from the bottom. So once again, just pop your tape down, and as you can tell, your tape goes past your card. Stick your ribbon, lay it nice and flat, then take the whole lot off, and by rights the tape should come off. Now bend any sticky that's left over from your tape, and then just fold that nice and tight and make sure it's well attached. And there we have our ribbon. The happiness is going in the middle of that ribbon, and then I will put 2 of those lovely little pearls. It definitely needed those little pearls. The ephemera, I'm just going to shuffle that around until I'm happy where it's sitting. I think I'm going to sit it like that, and I'm going to put that on some foam dots to give me dimension. And I'm just going to pop some of these little leaves once again, just glue them down with my glue. And there we have that little card completely finished, and then we can go straight on to our next card. This is our last card, which I have made this a little journaling card. So I cut a 3x4 and distressed around the edges from page number 2, called Blue Meadow, which is the one with all the big flowers. Then I found a little journaling spot here, so what I did is I actually have cut a little bit of the navy blue just big enough that it has an 1/8 of an inch border all around the journaling spot. So whatever journaling card you decide on, you need to make, and that size is roughly 2 by 3 inches to give you a clue roughly how big it is. So I will put, here is the story on to my little blue card that I've got ready beforehand. Then this card went in the top left hand corner, with an 1/8 of an inch border all the round, and I just cut one of the flowers from the flower with all the writing on it, and I'm going to attach that with some foam dots. So then you would do your journaling and etc. I've used this card as my heading card. Just pop that to give you a bit of nice depth. I'm going to attach that one flat just so it doesn't catch when you pop it in. So there we have, and of course I've actually run my heading piece off, so I would attach that like that onto my card. Thanks everybody for following my process video. Here we have the finished layout all ready to go into my album. I just have to stick my photographs into the allotted spots and also just attach the 2 photographs in the flat pocket. So I do hope that you did enjoy this process video and will join me on the next one that I download. So until next time, keep crafting. Bye.